you less than a me. But I laughed for a minute, came back, and you'd already found someone else. Silly me, thinking it was under control. Silly me, thinking it was fair play. Silly me, thinking I'd put one foot in. Little did I know you had me wrapped around you. Silly me, standing there, didn't know I had it all. Makes me kind of blue. Turn, oh, I can't kill time with you no more. Makes me kind of blue. Turn, oh, I can't kill time with you no more. Knowing my luck and love, it had to happen eventually. Still I tripped over the thought of what it could have been potentially. Silly me, for a minute I thought that I knew you. Silly me, didn't know I had it all.
So I guess that's my time with you. Flew kind of fast. Like, feels like deja vu. I have to sit it through.
So it seems that suddenly it's past my time with you. How fast it flew. Feels like deja vu. I have to sit it through, but I'm quick to find my feet and kill time with you no more. Makes me kind of blue. Turn, oh, I can't kill time with you no more. Makes me kind of blue. Turn, oh, I can't kill time with you no more. I've learned from this last Knowing my luck and love, it had to happen.
It is 9:40 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It is the 29th and very last day of February 2024. This is episode 864 of Bitcoin. And if you need to go stay somewhere really cool, Cabanas Namada down in Brazil. In fact, you can escape to a magical hobbit hut. That's right, a hobbit hut nestled in the lush landscapes of Oeida, Brazil. Immerse yourself in the enchanting getaway where fantasy meets comfort for a mere $174 a night to Middle Earth today, and let the adventure begin. Your story awaits at the Hobbit Hut. Be sure to tell them that you heard about it here on the Bitcoin and podcast. And if for the guys that are in the live chat like Kid War, this is the Hobbit Hut. And it looks like a hobbit hut. It's not built into a hillside. It is a standalone structure, but it's got the charm. It's got a pool. It's in Brazil. I mean, what the hell else do you want for $174 a night? I mean, my God almighty, dude, this thing has got all kinds of neat looking stuff. It's even got a round door painted green, just like the Hobbit. That's right. It's a magical place. No, seriously, if you guys are going to go down to Brazil and want to stay in a really cool place, then you got to go check out my friend DeFi Yogi. His information, his Nostr Inpub, and his Twitter handle. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on for a second. Let me get that. I away. No, actually, he's not on Twitter, or at least not that I have in my information here. DeFi Yogi, his Inpub for Nostr, so that you can get a hold of him and rent this thing out, will be in the show notes. And please make sure that you mention that you heard it here in the Circle P on the Bitcoin and podcast. All right, news. El Salvador. The Bitcoin bet for El Salvador is up a full 40%. 40%. But President Bukele says that he's selling. Andrew Thorvallis decrypt. El Salvador President Nayib Bukele took to Twitter on Wednesday with a rebuke for doubters who had criticized his nation's embrace of Bitcoin, claiming that his country would have made a 40% profit if they sold the cryptocurrency today. We won't sell, of course. His defiant tweet comes as Bitcoin came within 12% of its all-time high on Monday, seeing a nearly 10% increase in 24 hours. Bukele's Bitcoin profit, well, his profit brag, cost basis based on Bukele's public announcement of its BTC purchases. El Salvador is believed to be holding 2,848 Bitcoin worth $173 million at prices. Here's a tweet, says, when Bitcoin's market price was low, they wrote literally thousands of articles about our supposed losses. Now that Bitcoin's market price is way up, if we were to sell, we would make a profit of over 40% just from the market purchases. And our main source of BTC is now our, oh, good Lord, I'm not going to be able, not going to let me. Yeah, anyway, I didn't have it in the right browser. Twitter does not allow me to log in through my Brave browser. For at least it's not going to sell. Though the tracker overstated the nation's profits in December, in December. It has since been corrected, and Bitcoin's price has meanwhile shot much higher. Quote, when Bitcoin's market price was low, yeah, we already read that. That's not me. That's actually double typed in the story. Quote, it's very telling that the authors of those hit pieces, analysts, experts, the journalists, they're totally silent now, Bukele wrote. Remember this the next time they spill lies again about El Salvador. While largely aiming his ire at the media, Bukele has also faced pushback from the National Monetary Fund, which has warned that adopting Bitcoin as legal tender could destabilize the economy. Even with Bitcoin's volatility, the Bukele administration has not repealed the law, nor sold its BTC, even committing to buying one BTC a day right after FTX collapsed. Despite the nation's sizable profits, Bukele said that the nation has no intention of selling. Quote, one BTC equals one BTC, he wrote. Quote, this was true then, or when the market price was low, and it's still true now, end quote. Bukele was reelected as Salvador's overwhelming support earlier this month, securing another 5-year term with 85% of the vote. Though the leader's Bitcoin law was met with confusion and criticism by citizens at the time that it took effect, he's also grown highly popular for cracking down on local gang violence, helping reduce the nation's murder rate by 90%. Much like Bukele, MicroStrategy owner Michael Saylor called out critics of his company's strategy month. According to Saylor Tracker, the firm has now almost, doubled its money. So Bukele not selling. And I do find it odd that the majority of the media critics are basically silent on El Salvador, except for our good friend Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff had a backhanded comment that was in reply to some Twitter thread at one point or another, and he said something like, yeah, well, let's see if you actually retain the profits. You can only do that if you sell. I want to tell you a story about a good friend of mine. I mean, literally, one of my very best friends. I don't really talk to him anymore. It's not about because of the Bitcoin coming up. It's about something else. He just got a little weird. But this is a guy who made quite a bit of money in the private sector, doing his own thing with his brother, and which is great. And I'm really proud of him for accomplishing what he accomplished in the private sector. It's hard to be an entrepreneur, but be that as it may, while he was banking a serious amount of cash, I was sitting on Bitcoin, and he had known that I had it by the time that this happened about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, this whole story. And he was telling me how stupid I was that I wasn't selling it. And Bitcoin was sitting at actually, I think it was either sitting at 8,000 or it was sitting at 18,000. I cannot exactly when, but he's saying, why don't you sell it? And I told him, I said, well, look, I don't understand why you're not doing the math. And I wasn't talking about anything about the monetary policy of the United States. I wasn't talking about that. I was just talking about straight up math. I told him how much it cost me to buy what I had at that point. My principal investment, right? I had already sold enough Bitcoin at that time that he was talking to cover my entire principal that I had put into Bitcoin in the first place. I mean, it wasn't costing me, that much back in 2015, 2016. But still, it was almost as if that statement fell on deaf ears. And I still to this day don't understand it. At this point, I am literally and have been, well, no, because I always DCA, like every week. But minus that, the majority stake that I have invested in Bitcoin far exceeds anything else that I have. And it's all, quote unquote, the casino's money. I don't have any of my principal other than my DCAs, which I'm not including in this discussion. At that time, I had actually stopped DCAing because I was an idiot. So by the time that I was actually having these discussions with him 5 years ago, I wasn't DCAing. I was just sitting on what I already had. And I had already sold just in that stupid. I'm just saying that even after all that, he did not understand what I was doing. Now, if I had listened to him, I would have sold it somewhere between $8,000 and $18,000. Let's split the difference. We'll call it $12,000. I would have sold, if I had taken his advice, I would have sold. If I had sold on that day and taken his advice, the amount of sheer sadness and guilt and the amount of stupidity that I would feel about my actions would be crushing, absolutely crushing to me. And I had to defy somebody that I highly respected, that I'd known for years and I mean, I've known the guy since high school. So by this time, I'd known him like 20 years. I mean, this is the kind of peer pressure that all of us experience all the time. I just wanted to let you know that nobody is outside of the realm of getting into that cycle again. Although I am seeing a giant red dildo right now, but be that as it may. It was just a few weeks ago we were. I don't know how to tell the people that I love and trust and respect that they're wrong. So what I've done is that I no longer really talk about it. I talk about it to my sister, and to my wife and to my kids. But as far as everybody else is concerned, I don't talk about it. I just don't. It's easier to get along. Now, moving on. The United States Marshal Service is in possession of quite a bit of Bitcoin. And the United States Marshal Service is part of, as you know, unless you're part of the United States federal government. So just keep that in mind. When I read the following, we're talking about the United States. But Zoltan Vardai has this from Telegraph. United States government moved. BTC price broke $60,000. The United States government transferred $922 million worth of Bitcoin from two cryptocurrency wallets that held funds seized from the Bitfinex hack in 2016. U.S. government's transfer occurred the same day that Bitcoin breached $60,000 for the first time in over 2 years on February the 20th. Bitcoin rose 5.52% in the 24 hours leading up to 9:45 p.m. UTC to trade at 62,507. The first test transfer worth only 1 Bitcoin occurred at 339,817, and a third transaction worth 0.01 Bitcoin, and a fourth the funds in 2016 after Bitfinex was hacked for approximately 120,000 BTC worth over $7.4 billion at its current price. The transfers occurred a day after Ilya Lichtenstein, a hacker who stole and laundered over $4.5 billion worth of exchange, appeared in a Washington court, detailing how he pulled off the world's largest Bitcoin heists. Lichtenstein reportedly told a jury on February the 27th that he had access to Bitfinex's systems for several months, while also hacking individual accounts at other exchanges like Coinbase and Kraken, of course. Lichtenstein and his rapper wife, Heather Morgan, also known as Razzlecon, were arrested in February 2022, and at the time, the U.S. government alleged that they conspired to launder $4.5 billion in hacked Bitcoin, of which the government seized $3.6 billion, largest financial history. The government seized an additional $474 million worth of Bitcoin on August 2. Lichtenstein and his wife pleaded guilty to money laundering in connection with the Bitfinex hack. In August of 2023, Amazon has reportedly started making a movie on the Bitfinex. The script will reportedly be inspired by a 2022 article on the couple in the New York Times, branding them as Bitcoin's Bonnie and Clyde. And if you believe that Lichtenstein and his Razzlecon wife had anything to do with the physical hacking of the Bitcoin from Bitfinex, I got bridges all over the world to sell you, most of them in the Gobi Desert. There is no way, given the background of Liechtenstein and his Razzle Khan wife, to be able to hack something like Bitfinex. Something is very wrong with that, and it always has been. There's something, and I mean, it's not, I'm not just learning about this hack, right? I've known about this hack. I've read articles about these guys. I know what I'm talking about. Neither one has the background to be able to do what said has been done with Bitfinex. They did not hack that. Somehow they ended up in possession of the Bitcoin, but they did not actually hack that thing. Now, that's what they're on trial for, but there's no way that they could have pulled it. I'm sorry. This is Bitfinex. They're not sloppy in their security to the point that somebody with the backgrounds of Razzle Khan and her boyfriend Liechtenstein would off. Something else is going on. But that's kind of beside the point. When the U.S. Marshal Service, who is in possession of said Bitcoin, moved that Bitcoin yesterday at $60,000, they didn't sell it. They didn't move it to an exchange. They just moved it. I'm calling market manipulation in conjunction with Coinbase, Kraken, and at the same time. And you know who will not investigate any of that? The Securities and Exchange Commission. Gary Gensler's group of little thugs and miscreants are not going to do anything about it, even though, in my mind, that movement, if they were going to sell it, if the United States Marshal Service had announced and printed up flyers and put them in courthouses around the world, United States, that there was going to be a Bitcoin auction at that time on that day, maybe I could see it. But they just moved it to another wallet. That's it. That's all they did. And they just happened to do it at that time. I call BS. I think it's clear market manipulation engaged in by the United States Marshal Service in conjunction, Coinbase, Kraken, and whatever other major trading platform went down. I think phone calls went out because the mountain climbing protection team that is just hell-bent on defending the United States dollar and BS fiat currencies around the world called these guys and said, you turn off the buy button, just like they did with Robinhood. So if you think Kraken and Coinbase, this other platform, and the United States Marshal Service are working in your best interest, you are wrong. They want you to remain poor, want you to remain cattle. All right, let's move on. Marathon digital revenue surges 452% in the fourth quarter amid a banner year. Martin Young, Cointelegraph. United States Bitcoin mining giant Marathon report. Marathon Digital released its Q4 and annual earnings report February the 28th, revealing that the firm had made a record $387.5 million in revenue in 2023, which is a 229% increase. Quote, 2023 was a record-breaking year for Marathon, during which we achieved our primary objectives of energizing our fleet of pre-purchased mining rigs and optimizing our performance, said Marathon CEO Steele. Fourth quarter revenue increased 452% to $156.8 million, beating analyst estimates and rising significantly to $28.4 million in Q4 of 2022. Analysts had estimated only $108 million. The increase in revenue was driven by a 172% increase in Bitcoin production year-over-year, coupled with around double the average BTC price during that period, it stated. The firm sold 56% of the Bitcoin that it produced during the quarter to fund operating costs, and adjusted EBITDA, which stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, improved to $260 million in the costs. of 374 million fourth quarter of 2020. Marathon's Bitcoin production increased 210% to a record 12,852 BTC in 2023. And additionally, it energized hash rate increased 253% to 24.7 exahashes per second. That's a lot of the hash rate. Quote, while 2023 was a banner year, we have never been more optimistic about Marathon's future, said Thiel. Salman Khan, Marathon's chief financial officer, added, quote, we entered 2024 with a strong balance sheet that had us well positioned, despite the positive earnings report, the company's shares dipped 6.7% on the day in a fall to 28.5% in after-hours trading on February 9th. Nonetheless, shares in the mining giant have surged more than 300% in the past 12 months. Meanwhile, Marathon has recently announced that it was incubating developing a sidechain platform called Enduro on February 8th as it outs from its mining. Be aware, I do not like Marathon. Why? Because they're OFAC compliant, or at least they tried to be, and they're going to do. Marathon Mining, also know the ticker symbol is MARA, M-A-R-A. This is a mining company that holds entirely too much Bitcoin, holds entirely too much of the hash rate, has an entirely too high of a share price for my liking, given the fact that they are not essentially Bitcoin at all. In fact, given Mr. Thiel's background, I suggest that they are connected directly to the government and or generalized globalist institutions from around the world, like the World Bank, International Monetary Council. For they're going to do everything that the IRS, OFAC, FinCEN tells them to do. They block wallets. They do all kinds of stuff. They won't mine certain transactions because they're from wallets that are not OFAC compliant, blah, blah, blah. It's a mess. And yet, they're turning out to be a golden child in the mining space. And I really hope to see that reverse course with good miners, good Bitcoin ethics coming alongside, like Riot. Riot's pretty good. There's a couple other ones. A lot of these guys are centered in Texas. I can't iterate enough. Please, for the love of God, stay away from Marathon. Mining pool, the Marathon mining pool, if they're offering like services where you can buy a mining rig and they'll put it in their rack space, don't do it. Just stay as far away from Marathon as you can possibly get. They are not good Bitcoin at all. Now, Bitcoin bloodbath. And yes, we're still experiencing a little bit. Right now, we've got giant candles going down to the downside. $60,927 ain't nothing to sneeze at, lady. That's where we're at right now. But still, just be aware. I think it has something to do with the end of February and what's called monthly portfolio rebalancing. Guys that rebalance their portfolios away from Bitcoin are going to be some pretty pissed off people. Now, anyway, Bitcoin bloodbath, the price volatility leads to $640 million in liquidations. That's right, Decrypt, Sandar Lutz has it. After a stunning morning for the crypto market that saw Bitcoin rocket 11% in a matter of hours before quickly plunging, many traders are no longer smiling, with Wednesday's roller coaster leading to a colossal $640 million worth of position liquidations within mere hours. Serious? Do not trade this. Please, for the love of all that is holy, do not trade this stuff. In the last 12 hours alone, about $309 million worth of crypto short positions, as well as about coin overall in the last 24 hours, about $700 million worth of positions have been liquidated. Some 262 million of those came from Bitcoin alone, with shitcoin number one next up at $109 million. According to Greg Magadini, director of derivatives at blockchain analytics firm Amber Data, such a high sum of liquidations, such a condensed period of time is to be expected when an asset like Bitcoin experiences as brief and extreme of a rally as it is today. Quote, there's FOMO, and things can get so euphoric that the second prices start to tick down, it creates a cascading effect. Once prices begin to fall during an impressive price sprint, he explained, the most highly leveraged traders of an asset are forced to liquidate, bringing down on the way down. Perhaps surprisingly, Bitcoin fell only a few points before beginning to recover afternoon. After climbing above nearly to $60,000 within an hour, the token has since recovered slightly, though, to 61,000 at time of writing. BTC is still up 7%. Okay, so this is just a cautionary tale to remind people, especially anybody who's new out there, if you think you're going to trade this market, I think you're going to end up in a hole in the ground, crying and begging people to cover you with dirt and bury you alive. This market, there is only one way to trade this market, is that you buy Bitcoin either every minute, every hour, twice a day, once a day, a couple of times a week, or once a week, maybe once a month. I wouldn't do it once a year. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But you want a daily cost average into this thing. You do not want to have anything whatsoever to do trading against either fiat currency, buying in, cashing out, doing that kind of stuff. And God forbid, it's even worse if you try going up against altcoin. There's too much noise. And there's people that have the ability to filter out that noise that you do not have. Please do yourself a favor. Just use daily cost averaging. Pick a day. I pick Fridays at 11 o'clock in the morning, right around. Now, I buy Bitcoin. I don't even have to do it myself. It's on automatic. It just happens every day, 11 o'clock, every week, 11 o'clock Friday. That's how I do it. And I don't have to lose sleep at night. Now, Morgan Stanley, remember I told you about the RIA and Carson group yesterday, allowing four ETFs into their portfolio. Well, now Morgan Stanley is evaluating spot Bitcoin ETFs for its giant brokerage platform. And this is CoinDesk. Ian Allison and Will Canny is writing. Wall Street giant Morgan Stanley is in the midst of performing due diligence to add spot Bitcoin ETF products to its platform, according to two people with knowledge of the matter. One of the people said Morgan Stanley, which is among the largest U.S. brokerage platforms, has been evaluating offering spot Bitcoin clients since the Securities and Exchange Commission approved their. Although billions of dollars have already been invested in these products, the investment floodgates might not open until the Bitcoin ETFs are offered by big registered investment advisors. That's the RIA, right? Registered Investment Advisor. That's Carson. That's Morgan Stanley. That's Vanguard. Those are the RIAs. Those are the gatekeepers. And many of them have not yet offered the Bitcoin ETF products to their client pool. Not yet anyway, but here we are with Morgan Stanley announcing that they're evaluating. There's 10 spot Bitcoin ETFs now trading in the US. The ones with the most assets are Grayscale's GBTC, BlackRock's IBIT, and Fidelity's FBTC. And it's not clear which ones Morgan Stanley is looking to offer to its clients. And Morgan Stanley declined to comment, and that's completely understandable. Morgan Stanley, a leader in the alternative investments and private market space, with over $150 billion in assets under management, was the first major U.S. bank to offer its wealthy clients access to Bitcoin funds. The bank confirmed during its first quarter earnings call in April of that year that it was offering its wealth management clients exposure to Bitcoin via a pair of external crypto funds. Wealth management firm's former CEO, Jonathan Pouzin, said at the time that the bank was allowing qualified investors to gain access to two passive funds. It is understood that these funds were offered by Galaxy Digital and NYDIG, or NYDIG. Quote, as we see more interest, we'll work with regulators to provide services that we think are. So Morgan Stanley has $150 billion under assets. or assets under management. That doesn't matter. Not really. It's the amount of clients that they, which I did not actually see in that particular news article. Let me just pull that up and let's see if I can get something out of it. Number 61 in the 2023 Fortune 500 list. Who are now, it's not really going to say how many they have, but Morgan Stanley's been around for a very, 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 very long time. And I guarantee you they've got more clients than you can shake a stick at. Right now, their clients, if they're only with Morgan Stanley, they don't have access to a big. Morgan Stanley approves one or more of the Bitcoin ETFs that got stood up in January. Well, that's another gateway that it's almost like the floodgates are opening kind of like slowly and one at a time. They're not opening all together. If they did, it would probably be a disaster because it would just be so much volatility that nobody knows what the hell's going on. So I kind of understand why Morgan Stanley is taking a longer approach to get the clients to. But remember, Carson's doing the same. And they're nothing to sneeze at either. So expect more of this. Right now, let's run the numbers. CNBC futures and commodities. How you doing, Coin Laughs? Coin Laughs just joined us over there in the live chat. Good to see you here, pal. All right, West Texas Intermediate is down scant, but it's at $78.48 a barrel. Brent North Sea is up almost a negligible amount to $83.69. Natural gas is down a quarter to $1.88. Gold is up over half a point to $2,054. Silver is up 1.1%. Platinum is down 0.15%. Copper is up 0.14%. Palladium is up over 1.5 points. Biggest loser in ag today is going to be who? Oh, good Lord. Sugar is down over 4 points. Biggest winner is chocolate, up 1.5 points. Live cattle trading down scant. Lean hogs up almost a full point. Feeder cattle are down a half. The Dow is down scant, 0.05%. The S&P is up a quarter. NASDAQ is up 2/3 of a point, and the except for just a couple. The U.S. 30-year bond yield got pushed down to 4.378% in case we're there. $61,380 is what we are flashing price-wise for Bitcoin. Clark Moody dashboard. That is a $1.21 trillion market cap, 19,640,836.74 circulation at the time. 568.3 exahashes per second is the hash rate I'm getting. 0.25 BTC taken in fees on a per block basis, and the block space percentage for taking out the ordinal garbage is standing at 2.5%. So 2.5% of usable space is being wasted on ordinals. That's what that means. So now mempool.space, what we got going on. 212 blocks carrying 146,000 transactions waiting to clear mempool. High priority, going to cost you 56 Satoshis per VByte. That's about $4.80. Low priority is 51. So narrow range right now. Anything under 5.82 Satoshis per VByte are going to be purged from mempools around the world. And I am seeing a hash rate flashing of 545 exahashes per second on mempool.space/mining. Now, from episode behold, greatness. Episode 863, which was of the Bitcoin podcast yesterday, we have letter 6172 who gave me 20,000 sats and says boost for content I enjoy. Thank you, letter 6173. I appreciate that. Can confirm I saw that come through my Lightning node yesterday, and it also got me back into the charts. I'm sitting at number 17. I would very much like to be back in the top 10 if you guys can help me out. The only way to do that is by boosting, or at least as far as I know. I was thinking that the streaming Satoshi is also added to that. Jury's still out for me. I haven't been able to really get a good read. I hear that both of them happen. I hear that only streaming actually gets you into the charts. I've heard only boost, so I've got all three in common. If anybody knows exactly what Fountain is doing on that, please let me know. HBH Gardens with 3,000 says nothing, so thank you. I appreciate it. God's Death with 537 says, your ain't right dad jokes better than the book's jokes, sir. And Kramer doesn't have a Bitcoin phone, but I have a node in my phone, so fuck him. I agree. God's Death with another 537 says, thank you, sir. No thanks. Alexis, 521 says, I am a lot more concerned about the core developer issue. If it was just a case of censorship, then fine. It didn't affect Bitcoin, but now we see that a group of people acting in the shadows can censorship and merge vulnerable code without consensus and transparency. That's a huge issue and shows that a few individuals could harm Bitcoin if and when they get corrupted. Creation in this scenario is still been affected, but the current creators, when they push vulnerable. Yeah, see, I've got a big problem with this whole. We're talking about the Delving Bitcoin forum that I brought to you yesterday. Don't understand what I'm talking about? You can go back to yesterday's show and all. Pies with 100 says nothing. Pies with another 100 says thank you, sir. No, thank you. That's the weather. And for you guys in the Zap stream, I'm just going to put up Zap.stream. I'm going to put up Fountain's new edition. It's Fountain Radio. So I'm just going to put that up there in the chat and let you guys check it out. But first, I got to hit the. Welcome to part 2 of the news that you can use. Coinbase adds smart wallet feature so that lengthy seed phrases aren't needed. I have a really bad feeling about this out of CoinDesk, written by Margot Nizirak. Coinbase, the publicly traded United States cryptocurrency exchange, is coming out with not one but 2 new wallet solutions supposed to make the onboarding of new users into crypto easier. Features known as their smart contract wallet and embedded wallets aim to overcome hurdles that often come from the wallets. The smart wallet will be an addition to Coinbase Wallet SDK, a software toolkit that allows developers instantly inside of decentralized applications. Passkey, meaning no complex systems like using seed phrases or any extra steps needed. The wallet is built on top of Coinbase's Layer 2 network base, and it currently is testnet. Makes use of a popular blockchain technology known as account abstraction, which gives users recovery options in the event that they lose their key. Coinbase also said in a press release seen by CoinDesk that they will give out credits for gas-free fees with their account abstraction kit. Base team, Base is the abstraction. The Base team shared in their blog post that one of their goals for 2024 was to make smart wallets the default. Quote, smart wallets will help solve the key challenges in security and usability that are holding back on option today, bringing more users on chain, letting builders simple experiences that The embedded wallets will be powered by Wallet as a Service, or WAAS, WAAS for short. The idea that companies can customize blockchain wallets for their own customers. The new features will allow developers to create white labeled embedded wallets. White labeled. Oh, white labeled. God. Oh, joy. Social login flows. Quote in the quote, building the next generation of on-chain experiences will be critical to bringing 1 billion users on-chain. We believe that evolving wallets are a step. All right. The reason I'm telling you about Coinbase is that this is an attack vector that just introduced. They don't know it, but it is. As companies that still common denominator is going to make hacking these wallets or mistakes made in the construction of these all the more easier to uncover. And what happens when shit like that is uncovered in legacy media? It's all Bitcoin's fault. So thank you, Coinbase, for possibly allowing a situation to develop where Bitcoin gets a bad name. I just can't thank you enough. Yay, you did a good job, Coinbase. Just awesome work, because they can't even make their back end work. We saw that yesterday. They went down. They were telling people they had no money in their wallets. They were flashing zero balances that their bugs were so bad. Do you see what I'm saying here? I know that you guys that listen to me aren't going to use Coinbase, and if you do, please don't use this wallet. But also, since most people listening to me don't use Coinbase, you're not going to have to worry about this. But what you are going to have to worry about are the people who do, and then report that their shit got hacked or something broke. All the wallets go offline because Coinbase can't handle the volume of Bitcoin trading. Things go north like it did yesterday. And Paul Krugman, your Schiff, are just waiting to chew on the meat-laden bones that are laid out for them by failures. See, Bitcoin doesn't work. Their wallets got hacked. Oh God, just please be aware that is on the way. Now, Bitcoin's fair value, according to the EU Central Bank, is still at 0. Olivia Brooke is writing this one for Zai Crypto. Central Bank of Europe is convinced that the value of Bitcoin is 0. According to the blog post, the EU Central Bank reckons that Bitcoin failed to keep its promise of becoming a global decentralized digital currency and has become instrumental in enabling illegitimate transfers. Despite the recent ETF approvals being regarded by market experts as a major milestone for the community, the bank insists that Bitcoin is unsuitable for investments and payments. As the blog post reads, quote, for disciples, the formal approval of ETFs confirms that Bitcoin investment is safe, and the preceding rally is proof of an unstoppable triumph. We disagree with both claims and reiterate that the fair value of Bitcoin is still 0, end quote. So there's more to the article, but we don't really have to actually talk about it. No. This is just going to be the messaging that we're going to have to deal with from institutions that are huge, behemoth, mammoth, absolutely just ridiculously quote unquote well respected by government agencies across the world. Hold on for a second. I want to put something up. I want to put Cabana Demonic on the screen here for zap.streamline, just so you have something to look at. Okay, so where was that? Okay, so EU Central Bank, IMF, World Bank, World Monetary Fund, World Bank, Council of Foreign Relations, United States, European government, European Council, they're going to be saying the same thing. So be aware, that's not going to stop you. And it doesn't matter if Morgan Stanley decides to give their millions of access to the. These guys are never going to change their tune, which leads me to believe that they don't have the capacity to understand. And then attacked by mountain lions, and you see the look on its face as it's being torn to shreds, and it's clearly still alive, that it doesn't quite understand what's happening to it. That's how I view the IMF, United Nations, NATO, World Bank, EU, United States Federal, name it. I don't think these guys realize that they're being torn. They don't, the pain receptors, for some reason or another, are delayed in getting them to understand that they are being destroyed. And we're not even firing a shot. The best revolutions in the world are ones that don't fire a shot and not a single drop of blood is spilled. And we're in the midst of that revolution right now. Gandhi didn't fire a shot at the British troops. He simply walked a whole bunch of people down to the shoreline in India and started making salt in front of the whole world. Now, he did that in a very beautiful way. He started basically, I guess, from inner parts of India and basically announced that he was doing this, and more followers. It was like following Jesus in a little bit of a way. And the more they walked, the more people gathered up. And the more people gathered up, the more other people were looking at the spectacle coming through their villages and towns. And they wanted to go see what the hell was going on too. And they ended up getting kind of glommed onto the whole crew. And by the time they got down to the sea to make salt, which was illegal under British rule, because they, for various reasons, they wanted control of the salt trade. They didn't want Indians who had been making salt by their hands for, millennia to be able to do that. They wanted them dependent upon the British government, the British sovereignty, to be able to give them salt. And then they just basically announced to the world that they were going to save. And they walked their happy ass right down to the coast. And they started making salt. And the British could do nothing about it because by the time they got there, the whole world was watching. And I see some similarities going on here. I can't help but to see comparison. Now, while the EU Central Bank is in the midst of being ripped apart and it's still unaware that that's happening to them, Bitcoin has become the 5th largest base money in the entire world. No BS Bitcoin. It seems highly likely that Bitcoin will close February higher to 60,900. Monetary base update. The pound sterling balance 1.2 trillion US. Right now, Bitcoin's cap is at 1.16 trillion, said Matthew Mazinski, or Mazinskis of Porkopolis. So, I just read to you that market cap of Bitcoin is still true for the Great British Pound Sterling. Then, in fact, Bitcoin has surpassed the pound sterling as base money. Wow. 5. Let's wait for the monthly. But we are about to surpass the oldest fiat currency in the world. Remarkable, Matthew Mazinski added. Bitcoin is the 6th largest base money in the world, if counting gold, however. Quote, regarding the basic money supply definition, explains Porkopolis' site. More on methodology and definitions that are used for calculating base money 0.0 or 10 point. Dual funding, latest Bolt 12, fully working splice, official support for the dual funding feature, up-to-date implementation of Bolt 12 offers, and a fully working splicing prototype. Quote, we're waiting on the specification work to be finalized for some of those features and other implementations ready for cross-compatibility tests. You should only activate them if you know what the hell you're doing and willing to take the chance. Quote, this release also contains various on-chain fee improvements, more configuration options, performance enhancements, and various minor bug fixes. So let's talk about a little bit about the dual funding action of this. This release of Eclair activates dual funding, nodes that don't support dual funding, older funding protocol will be used auto-magically. One of the immediate benefits of funding is that the funding transaction can now be RBF'd using the RBF open. Quote, there is currently no way automatically add funds to channels that are being open to your node, as deciding whether to do so or not really depends on each node operator's peering strategy. We have, however, created a simple plugin that node operators can to implement their own strategies for contributing to channels. And now on to Bolt 12. eClair supports the latest state of Bolt 12 specification. The specification may still change at some point, so support is experimental, but you may try it using either Pay Offer RPC to pay a Bolt 12 offer, or number 2, the Tip Jar plugin to generate Bolt 12 offers. And the Tip Jar plugin is over at github.com/async/hyphen plug. In here, there's a lot of stuff, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that eClair has a working prototype of dual funding. What is that? Okay, so I have a Lightning node. I get funds streamed to me all the time. All of my channels, I either opened those channels to somebody else's Lightning node, or somebody opened a Lightning channel to my node. In a dual funding, that is a single funding operation. In dual funding, me and another person that has a Lightning node can make an agreement. We can both fund the opening of a brand spanking new Lightning channel together. When I open a Lightning node channel to somebody else's Lightning node, I have what's known as outgoing liquidity. People can use my node to send funds from that channel to that other Lightning node. So I have outflow of Satoshis. When somebody opens a channel to my node, I have what's known as incoming liquidity. People can hit the other person's node and send sats through that channel to my node. A dual funding channel has both directions. This is brand new. It's experimental. Be highly careful about it, but I'm really excited about it. It's going to enhance the usability of Lightning Network in ways that are, it's just, I mean, in ways that I don't know. You'd think it'd be simple to say, well, it's just a dual funding channel. I mean, how much can change? You have no idea. You see what happened when we had Taproot and SegWit? We got freaking ordinals. Now, I'm not saying that dual funding channels is going to cause a mountain of crap to happen to us. I think that the things that are going to happen are going to be quite good, but they are not going to be known just yet. I think they are, but they're not. Ask me how I know. All right, last up for today, Voltage introduces a redesign, teams, and pricing updates. No BS Bitcoin again. As we start 2024, we anticipate a significant increase in network participants for Bitcoin on-chain and the Lightning Network. We've made some updates to our platform to prepare for this influx. Blog post. First, we significantly updated our dashboard to streamline the experience of using Voltage. Second, we've added support for teams on the platform to allow easy collaboration. Finally, we've updated our pricing to better align with our customers. I got to make sure I know where I'm at on my audio. So, dashboard redesign. Previously, managing your node and viewing your data in Surge, separate experiences, and in this update, we've combined them into a single dashboard, so it's pretty straightforward to manage your node and see everything that's happening. Teams. With this update, you can add additional users to your team, grant them specific types of access, allow others to view and manage your. There's some other stuff here, but essentially, Voltage kind of allows you to grab rent Lightning channels. And you can, as far as I remember, you can also allow your channels that you've opened, or you can open channels through Voltage, but on your node, and basically help provide liquidity. So it's sort of a clearinghouse of Lightning Network stuff. Go check out Voltage. There's no reason not to, and we're gonna need all the Lightning Network help that we can get. Thankfully, there's also eCash is coming, and I'm just gotten to the point where I'm gonna go ahead and just say that I'm not going to shit on it. I'm pretty sure that this is above board. I'm becoming comfortable with it. It seems to work. I can send eCash directly from an eCash infrastructure directly to Lightning infrastructure. That alone makes eCash sort of a level 3 or a step 3 or layer 3. Won't be able to have a UTXO. I'm sorry that we can't help. We have tried and tried and tried to get people just get a little bit of Bitcoin, enough of a UTXO representation on the blockchain that they have a substantial amount of wealth secured in either one UTXO or most likely, and you're going to want them, at least several UTXOs, which brings me to a point. Some people are saying, what's the optimum size amount of Satoshis have in a single UTXO? I've heard 1 Bitcoin all the way down to 500,000 Satoshi. I hear a lot about 1 million Satoshi. But here's what I'm getting at. Now, I'm going to go away from eCash and the fact that I'm starting to like it. Just going to be upfront with you about it. I don't think it's a shitcoin. I don't think it's a, like how we used to bitch about the fact that Lightning Network, it wasn't really, it was Lightning tokens. An issue of the whole, not enough UTXOs for everybody in the world to have. If you have an appreciable amount of Bitcoin in a single UTXO, let's say, let's just for example, let's say you have 1 full Bitcoin in 1 single UTXO. If we go by the sentence, there's not enough UTXOs in the world to service all of the people, are you A, ethically obligated to keep your 1 Bitcoin in that single UTXO, or would you be violating ethics and morals by splitting that 1 Bitcoin into 10 million Satoshi UTXO? Because there's 100 million Satoshis. I got distracted by Kid Warp. Technically, eCash, and that doesn't mean you're wrong. You're absolutely right. eCash has been around forever, but its implementation on the Bitcoin network has actually come later than Lightning, and that's all anybody's ever. But getting back to this, and Kid Warp, I want your feedback. If you're still here, you're still listening. I'll ask the question again. If I have 1 Bitcoin, single UTXO, and the following statement is correct, there's not going to be enough UTXOs for everybody on the face of the planet to have their own UTXO and therefore be financially sovereign, then am I morally obligated to A, keep that 1 Bitcoin in single UTXO, or am I morally bereft, ethically bereft, because I choose to want more UTXOs so that because I don't, if it's the case that the UTXO itself is a scarce commodity, like the Bitcoin token is a scarce commodity, then don't we have 2 different kinds of commodity represented at the same time on the Bitcoin layer 1 network? So am I morally in Satoshi UTXO a good size? We won't call it optimal. We'll call it a good size. What if I split it into 100, 1 million Satoshi? If, again, I'm going to reiterate, we have a 21 million Bitcoin cap. on the amount of tokens that can ever exist on the Bitcoin network. No more will ever be created. That's consensus rule. But we're finding out as we do projections into the future and compare the world's population and how much the network can take and how much the network can process. And given what we've seen so far over the last 15 years, it is becoming evident, not directly to me, because I'm not the one that's coming up with this. I am listening to other people in space, and so many of them have said the same thing, that there's not going to be enough UTXOs for the world's population to flourish and thrive and be self-sovereign. What am I to do? If I have more than one UTXO at this time, which I do, am I morally obligated to collapse all of those to a single UTXO to make room for the world's population to have more UTXOs available? Beyond all this, so those are the basic questions. But here's the secondary question, which we've already asked, but I want to reiterate again. Are UTXOs now representative of actual money? And I'm not talking about the tokens, the Satoshis held within the UTXO, just the fact that I have one and I can trade that UTXO. Not the tokens inside. The tokens will come along for the ride, clearly. But is there now a monetary value on just having a UTXO, no matter what's in it? Which is a little stupid. I think that's the pressure release valve is, well, if it's a 1 Satoshi UTXO, nobody gives a shit. Nobody really cares. Which brings us to another question. How much dust UTXOs are out there? Millions, I guarantee. How? Is there going to be a sweeping event? Like maybe it ends up being like Bitcoin Pizza Day, or let's count all the Bitcoin on the Bitcoin Network Day, right? With the proof of keys. Is there going to be a sweep, like a dust cleaning day, where we collapse bullshit UTXOs into one UTXO so that UTXO space can be freed up for the world's population? What am I responsible to do? What am I responsible for? Am I responsible for all the future generations of the planet? There's a very good argument that I am. It's also a very good argument that it doesn't matter if I am. There's no way that I can help. I don't know. Kid Warp has written back with something. Let's find out. About 10 years ago. No, I don't think you did. I don't think you did. But this presents an issue, does it not? What if people figure this out and they start going, holy shit, and you got some whale out there with 100 Bitcoin sitting in a single UTXO, and they decide to split it into 100 UTXO or 1,000 UTXO, 10,000 still be a credible amount of Satoshis in every single one of the UTXO. Will the UTXO itself, just having one, be of monetary value that is on top of or ancillary to the Satoshis that reside within that UTXO? I think that these are interesting questions. And here's my prediction. UTXOs are going to have value all by themselves. As to how much, there's no way to know. I'm not even gonna broach that one. But I think that we are dealing now with Bitcoin's layer 1 as a 2-headed hydra, which is a 7-headed beast, I know, but just bear with me. And 1 is the amount of Satoshis, and 2 is the amount of UTXOs. I'll let you chew on that for a little while. And you know what? We're running long. It's 67 minutes into the show, so I'm just going to cut it here. I cannot stomach doing another dad joke from that particular book. So let me find one. Bear with me, and I'll find one. Dad says jokes. Dad says jokes. This is where I used to get them from Twitter. Got one. Dad says jokes. Wheat bird, dead bird app, and now Your fingers have fingertips, but your toes don't have toe tips. Yet you can tip toe, but not tip finger. Honestly, I'm going to leave it right there, and I will see you on the other side. All right, guys, in the Zap stream, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Kid Warp, as always, you're the ride or die for this show, and I appreciate you being here as much as you are, and I will see you on the other side.